Wife, director, got yelled at by VP over Teams.
As title says, my wife is a director of a company and personally interacts with their largest clients. She's been asking for more headcount and for the sales team to stop giving concessions to clients that involves timeframes that cannot be met.
She works easily 70 hours a week and today she finally met her threshold for bullshit.
She told her boss flat out there aren't enough hours in the day to physically complete promises that were made by others.
He fucking started screaming during a Teams meeting. She's the most senior, 8+ years.
Her team is freaking out she's going to bounce.
Quit?
Quiet quit?
Asking on her behalf with her okay. Escalate beyond her direct manager. Ask for a one-on-one and clearly lay out these issues. I think it's important to give people the benefit of the doubt because her boss could be applying pressure downwards.
Also, your wife should approach this as a, we'd like to be able to fulfill these customer needs but we also need the resources to do so and making unreasonable promises to clients hurts our whole organization.
Focus on a solution and move forward from there. If her boss's boss is also holding the same line as her boss then she should just find other work. Also, while she's looking for another job, scale her hours down to 40, or what's considered full-time. That should be done anyway. Things have to start failing before management will see a problem. Do not cover for someone overpromising or a coworker that's under-delivering by overworking yourself to compensate. I've been in the opposite position. Management won't hire more people unless they see us billing lots of extra hours.
That's how they see the problem.
I'm not going to work more hours, so project timelines are delayed.
Want it done faster?
Hire more people. I'm not going to work more hours. Our deadlines are internal and don't matter anyway. Looking at hours charged is a bad metric because people will just leave before management figures out they need to hire more people. Write down all of the projects and the time needed to complete those tasks and involve the supervisor to set priorities. Look, boss. We have 500 man-hours of work to do every week and only enough staff to give 200 man-hours even if we work overtime and weekends.
How would you like me to handle this? And in the long term, we need to set more realistic expectations.
I'm in sales and this is how I did my best to give her an example of how to go higher level. I also suggested adding a dollar amount to the hours to show how much they're being cheap and fucking themselves. This is excellent advice. I would say float the resume in parallel. Don't wait until she learns what the fallout might be. I think that's called going over your boss's head. If your company doesn't allow regular skip-level meetings, you work for a shitty company. I've worked for like 4 of the largest companies in my country, never had skip levels. Heard about them through the grapevine, but it's never been offered to me. Are they really that common? Literally had a skip level today regarding done recent layoffs and the plan forward. Good jobs should have accessible upper management. Been at 4 companies, all had skip levels. I've never heard this term. I just thought my boss's boss likes me cold sweat smile. I call them warp pipes. My boss does skip levels. Her boss doesn't. They are if you ask for them and have a good reason. Usually when you're seeking mentorship or have a high visibility project where they are a direct stakeholder. Maybe I've worked for shitty companies. I've managed teams, large capital projects, and programs worth over $100 million in revenue. Never had them, at least not one-to-one. I've met with my manager's manager, but usually in group settings. My projects have had enough visibility to have me present to SVPs and presidents. But yeah, no regular one-to-one skip levels. Are you saying that such a meeting has never been offered to you? No one's come to you and scheduled one, offered one? Or are you saying that you can't request one? I've worked at a couple large companies that both have them, but it's not something that happens regularly. It's more of an open door policy. One company I took advantage of this regularly. I sometimes even met with my boss's boss's boss when I was working on a project for them. During that time, my boss's boss would schedule meeting GS with me to get a briefing on what work was being done. All that being said, it's always been an open door policy.
If you feel like you need to talk to someone higher up, they're available. In my current role, I'd feel comfortable walking into my boss's office without an appointment, checking if he wasn't busy, and then talking one-on-one about anything I wanted, even my career.
I'm confident my boss wouldn't mind either. Greater than, are you saying that such a meeting has never been offered to you?
This here.
Greater than, it's not something that happens regularly. Maybe this is more what I've experienced.
When I heard skip level, I'm imagining a pre-planned, say monthly to quarterly 1-to-1. In my previous roles at a large telecom and retailer, I'd often have meetings with my manager and their manager to review, say, big presentations for some of my capital projects, before presenting them to SVPs, etc. Or when we were in office, I
could grab my manager's manager and ask then something.
My past 2 jobs though have been in large banks, in roles that are now largely remote, and in the current one, our VP doesn't live in the country, and so any chance meetings are very rare, and nothing is proactively scheduled.
I have had weekly and bi-weekly skip-level meetings and monthly meetings with the boss above that. I work at a very large, well-known global company, and it's pretty common here to regularly speak with higher-ups. Open-door policies are just a bunch of PRBS. They mean nothing. I had them unofficially at my last company and officially at my current one. Came in handy at my current one when things started going south with my direct manager. For top talent, it typically is. They want to know where you're at mentally and how to keep you. I've got skip levels 3 layers up reaching out to me quarterly. I keep getting promoted but have never had them. I reached out to a few friends of mine. They don't have them either. What do you mean by not offered? You requested and they refused? It's never even come up as an option, and none of my coworkers have had them either. Everywhere I've been, you request if you want, need, and they find time. But few places have had it as a scheduled thing. Gotcha. Thanks. In fact, skip-level meetings are often insubordination. Gotta keep in, most managers are just people in roles and not necessarily smart or good leaders. I've been in banking 20+ years and rarely have good leadership. Not saying I hate them, but they are usually nothing special. Most people only care about themselves and are trying to survive. I love when I have an awesome leader, but just very rare. I've been in retail, terrible leadership, telecom, much better. And now I'm 2 years into banking. And we're back to pretty terrible law. Greater than, love when I have an awesome leader. I get why people follow good leaders around now. Yes. Fortune 10 US here. I am the tippy-top security manager at the company I work for and have worked various managerial roles. By my own efforts and policy, monthly meetings with the next managers below the people I am in charge of, quarterly meetings with every supervisor in my chain, yearly group meetings by contract, department. Have worked for both AWS and Microsoft, they are basically mandated. I had to log back on after thinking about this. I am a peer to middle management. I just am at a weird place where I don't have subs. I and the other middle managers max out at our senior manager. We don't go higher without ruffling feathers. But the people below us get skip-level meetings once a month. Interesting. Thanks for the perspective. Have you asked to have them and got denied? I've never worked anywhere that didn't to this. How are you supposed to provide feedback on your direct supervisor if you never get to talk to their boss? Not having occasional skip-level meetings sounds like a recipe for developing a toxic culture to me. Greater than, how are you supposed to provide feedback on your direct supervisor if you never get to talk to their boss? I've never been able to, save if the company had 360 reviews. I've talked to my boss's boss and have had group meetings with them about project-related things, but no one has ever set anything up to deliberately check in on me in this respect. In working for 2 banks, 2 large retailers, and a large telecom, nada. Actually, now that I'm casting my mind back, I think at one of the retailers, an American company that came up to Canada,
For a brief period I had them. But then I moved to another department, and that company started going down the toilet, so they kinda stopped. You don't get those if the skip level is CEO or other C-suite.
I've never heard of this. 18 years in finance, fintech. I think we both know fintech isn't exactly the bastion for progress in terms of labor relations. I work in MarTech for enterprise-level clients. This carrot. That. Most companies are shitty.
It is, and when someone is screaming at you in front of your team, that is the exact correct course of action. Yes, and there's a time and a way to do it.
This qualifies.
You have to sometimes.
Sure.
Just prepare to be fired. That doesn't happen as much as you think. Yes, it is. Even at a shitty company, you can engineer a situation where you cross paths in the hallway, work on the same project and ask for feedback, or something like this, and start a relationship with higher-ups. This is the only way to move up at those kind of companies, and to your point, it is a risk.
Fully remote since before COVID. Shitty companies have long since called people back into their office spaces. Who cares if he's legitimately yelling? Unless someone is in danger or endangering someone else, there is no need to yell. That just means the yeller has run out of ideas. A manager yelling indicates that they have lost the ability to manage effectively. At least emo. Nah, that term isn't applicable when you have an issue with your boss. That's just shitty boss rhetoric. If your boss is being abusive or directly hindering you, you need to go over their head. Which can also turn out to be going for your boss's throat. Also, while she's looking for another job, scale her hours down to 40, or what's considered full-time. Sounds like she did say that at least. The solution is simple: stop promising things you can't deliver. Good point. Boss is pointing blame, which isn't helpful. Need to solution. It's cute when people insist that executives escalate to their manager. Folks, this is not how it works. You're at the top. You work this shit out where you are. Your CEO, president, EVP. Whatever does not want personnel issues at your level in their office. Prime way to get the old heave-ho. You work it out, or you move on. The business issue at hand. 100% completely normal at that level of an organization. Clearly more advice provided by someone that hasn't functioned at this level. Ove. Our committing, under-delivering, and managing through no-win scenarios is what executive management does, and they create these very scenarios to cover financial objectives. It's normal. So, you manage around the edges, you seldom try to solve the problem. I feel like Reddit is the only place in the world where the top-rated advice is to jump over your VP's head to resolve a problem. This is the most professional solution. But as a man, I'd like to tell that son of a bitch if he yells at my wife again, I'll kick his balls to the roof of his mouth and we'd have a three-legged race to the hospital with my foot up his ass. I'd catch a drink with you. Thanks. You'd think that as a successful career woman she wouldn't need her husband to come over all caveman to deal with an issue. Guaranteed career killer move. Good way to get packaged out if she wants though. Ha! Not a guarantee but always a possibility. At the AVP, VP level, honestly, these people don't fuck around. Absolute career psychos IMHO. I am a managing consultant who has worked in high-pressure, client-facing roles since graduating college. I have quit jobs because I felt like my managers were dismissive, unappreciative of my work, and even a bit petty. I have had clients say they would rather slit their own throat than use my team's work product in front of my boss. My wife is also a consultant in a similar situation. Neither of us has ever been yelled at or even seen someone get yelled at in our entire careers. I am not saying, gee, we haven't seen some petty and even some frankly unbelievable toxic behavior, but that's just too far. I would absolutely never, under any circumstances, raise my voice to any of my subordinates. If I did,
I would apologize and self-report the incident up the chain because such behavior is fundamentally at odds with what it means to be a professional, and the only possible way I ever regain that subordinate's respect would be to affirm that I understand that with my actions.
The job is sometimes
unpleasant enough as it is without anyone acting so childishly.
My advice would be to start looking for a new job. If I were your wife,
I would go through all the stupid, bullshit motions to try to put up boundaries, patch things up, or adjudicate this issue, especially given how senior she is. That said, my heart would not be in it if I were her.
Just do what you have to do to get through the day, but get out quick.
That's my advice.
I waited too long to do this in a prior role that had burned me out. If my current managing director yelled at me, I'd be looking for another job the same day. It's a respect thing.
Personally? Nobody yells at me like that.
I'm a bartender at a restaurant on Sundays, and the bar manager flipped a shit on me after a rush last weekend because he felt like I didn't handle something the way I should have in the middle of it. Calm voice. Why are you yelling?
Don't ever yell at me. There's no need to get so mad about this.
He realized what he was doing but still tried to deny it and deflect, and doubled down except softer. He'll either learn some respect or we'll have to find a new bartender for Sundays. You gotta have appropriate boundaries for yourself. It's a reasonable boundary to not want someone to yell at you in a professional setting. Given OP's wife is in a senior position, she shouldn't have a hard time finding another job. The answer to OP's question is exactly what you said. Go through all the motions to make nice so you can pay your bills like a good wage slave, but start looking around immediately. Expecting a person like this to apologize or take ownership of something as egregious as this is laughable.
Imagine what he's saying to his subordinates about OP's wife to save face here.
Disgusting. Yeah, I don't disagree with other commenters suggesting how to approach this from the perspective of resolving a workplace issue. As I mention in my own comment, I think that's wise in the short term. But your superiors shouldn't yell at you. That behavior was once more common, but even in notorious pressure cookers like Big Law and IB, that behavior is not really tolerated anymore. The fact is, you don't have to put up with people treating you like that. So just don't. It may take a bit to find the right job, but it'll be worth it. Big Law is definitely still toxic. Avoid if you want any ounce of sanity. My go-to to keep employees calm, put everything into perspective is, we're not saving lives here. To be honest, I sometimes would rather have a closed-door yelling session where we get it out and move on instead of playing pretend nice and drag things out with weird petty games. If this was an open Teams call with her team members that she supervises, it's a totally different story. Praise in public, discourse in private. You are just hurting your lower management's ability to lead by blasting them in front of their people. Greater than I have had clients say they would rather slit their own throat than use my team's work product in front of my boss. That product must have been god-awful and the only game in town, or otherwise forced. Or someone just likes being melodramatic. Was it that bad? I'm pretty sure you just mean they said that in front of your boss, but I like imagining they were fine with the product and just didn't want to use it in front of your boss. TBH, it was that bad. I agreed with the dude. After the long call, my boss and I hopped on the phone and immediately said, "The guy has some pretty good points." It's a long story, but I left that particular employer because I was putting out shit products like that. Overworked and not able to devote enough time to my clients. The team which was putting out this shit work was run ragged and undertrained in some instances. I wasn't proud of that work. But I was proud to have the job at that time. And relatively new to the industry. And I should have left sooner. That company is still with the particular firm I worked for, and, actually, they're fine with their work. I've talked to them since then on unrelated business and asked. Well, I'm not doing that anymore, and I'm not putting people through that anymore. At least people weren't screaming at me, though. Christ. That said, it was also melodramatic. I don't want to go into too many specifics just in case, but other people intervened. And like in OP's workplace, my boss had my back.
And, as I said above, it's a workplace I subsequently left because I wasn't happy and I was not proud of the work I was able to do or satisfied with management's reaction when I raised these concerns repeatedly.
This is when you treat your boss like a toddler. I know a lot of people say go the quiet route, but I've found that the "fuck that" and "fuck you" method works pretty well so long as you keep your words professional. When getting yelled at, I have made statements like the following. I can see you have some big feelings about this situation, but screaming is not and has never been appropriate in a work meeting. This meeting can be rescheduled for a time when you have your emotions under control. I do not get paid to be verbally abused and I will not put up with a hostile work environment. I expect much more professional behavior from someone who is management level.
Usually they get embarrassed for being called out, and now they know you are not going to be treated like shit. Greater than treat your boss like a toddler.
I found that the "fuck that" and "fuck you" method.
What toddlers are you dealing with?
Oh, I love this advice.
I'll be watching a friend's kids for 3 weeks in a different country.
This advice slaps on multiple levels. Lol, no, usually they hold a grudge and screw you down the road. I would suggest only going this far if it's only the two of you. If in front of a group, tone it down to something like, let's have a more detailed discussion later when emotions are not so high.
This allows them to save face.
That hasn't been the case for me, and I've done this more than once. I've had the unfortunate experience to have to stand up against a few abusive bosses.
I don't give a fuck who they are. I have enough self-respect that I'm not going to stand for that.
I've never been punished, demoted, let go, or even written up for standing my ground.
Then you're at that new job option anyway, but you also embarrassed them publicly before you went.
Hi. C-level exec here, your wife's boss's boss's boss.
I bring this up for a good reason.
I've been where she is, where her boss is, and where the boss's boss has been, and it's not a simple answer. It depends on something only your wife knows. Specifically, what is the overall culture at her work? There are a few ways to deal with this, and although this isn't an exhaustive list, the main four are 1. A skip level, 2. An HR complaint, 3. Transfer elsewhere in the company, or 4. Find a new job externally. Asterisk if you have a positive culture, any of the first three are appropriate. By example, if someone comes to me with a skip-level concern, I take it seriously, look into it, and act on it. The culture starts with me. Similarly, HR at a good company wants the best work environment. In the case of a personality mismatch but a good company, a job with a new boss might be a positive change. Switching organizations is not a negative, remember, and can be good for your overall career. Asterisk if you have a mixed culture, generally only the second option will get you anywhere, and then only if they need to end the liability of your boss more than any perceived liability of yours. The third is an option too, but a crapshoot. You might end up with another negative boss. The fourth is always available. Asterisk if you have a negative culture overall, only the fourth is an answer. If that is her decision, then send out resumes and call your network. Find a new role and then resign. Some people just quit upfront. But I strongly suggest to everyone that you find a new job first. Remember that if the decision is fully made and you are at a job temporarily, and have that mindset, the stress is already lowered. It is not quite quiet quitting, but it is close. Best of luck. An HR complaint is pretty risky. High performers suddenly go on a pip when HR gets involved. The boss often defends themselves by saying the employee is underperforming. It happened to me. I was rated as high performer for years. A new boss comes in and we start butting heads. I meet with HR to say I would like to transfer to a different part of the company. They completely understand and agree. They meet with boss who says I'm underperforming. They block my move and throw me on a pip. Why keep extending the pip over and over again waiting for me to slip up?
I'm knocking out all the work on the PIP, but boss keeps saying I'm underperforming.
I'm clearly not. HR refuses to conduct a 360 review. HR finally gives in after months and months of me literally completing 100% of the PIP work. I transfer to a different team and poof, I'm a high performer again.
HR is not there to help you.
They will cover their own asses. It's politics. If the person who wants you gone has more pull than you do, you're in a tough spot.
I survived, but I've seen other people get the boot in the same situation.
I had a new manager try that shit with me.
Scheduled a skip level with her boss's boss, VP of engineering for the division, and explained the situation, and the next day I was reporting to a different manager.
2 months later, the new manager was no longer with the company. I guess she fucked around and found out.
How exactly do you word such a request?
Out of curiosity.
Asking for a friend.
What size of company do you work for that has 3 more levels of leadership above a VP? I'm at a defense contractor with nearly 14,000 employees, and VPs report direct to the CEO.
My company is director greater than VP greater than SVP greater than head of, and EVP roles, same level but different tracks, then finally C. Agree. I usually see CEO to other Cs, CFO, COO, etc., to VP to director to manager to individual contributor.
1,400 employees is not small, unless you compare it to 40,000 or even 0,090 employees. Greater than if you have a positive culture, any of the first 3 are appropriate.
She works 70 hours a week to try to keep up with other people's promises, and she was screamed at by her superior.
What kind of culture do you think she has? Person facepalming face with rolling eyes exploding head.
HR is nobody's friend but the company's.
Her only option is a new job.
You ever been screamed at in a meeting because you don't have the resources to do your job? Good answers. The nuance of culture is a very important factor here.
Unless she decides to take an external role.
You're the most full of shit response I've ever read.
The real why business is so fucked.
It's not full of shit, but there's a lot of fluff to read through before concluding that 4 is the best option for the OP. Give the spacebar a rest, boss's boss's boss.
Scale down to 40 hours and start looking for another role, emo. Yeah, quiet quit.
Then leave and let them know why.
Find a job first, it's rough out there. I don't let anyone speak to me like that and she should not either. I had it out with the owner of another company we work with a while back. Surprised at no fallout. I didn't answer phone at 4 am for them and would not come out on a weekend, when I don't work. He got mad at me and demanded I do as I am told. I told him I do not work for his company and he cannot demand I do anything and hung up. Hours ago my boss screamed completely out of line at me for doing my job.
I yelled back because I won't be disrespected.
All over ink for a printer we were out of. He didn't want to hurt his commission by buying ink, so we had to walk across entire building. I then got screamed at for embarrassing him by getting seen by his boss walking across building to print important papers. His boss wanted to know why I was walking across building to get stuff from printer. He told me to order ink and I was old. I am not allowed. I left one day when place was in nuclear meltdown over similar situations and everything was at standstill while that manager was in divorce court. So he got his ass handed to him in court and by his bosses because they were bleeding money.
Yeah, it sucks and a VP shouldn't be yelling at people, but I bet the owner or CEO is screaming at them and creating the culture.
I'm in such environment and HR told me to act as what I hoped the culture would be like instead of how the higher-ups acted after I nearly quit from a heated incident. They also gave me a ton of comp to stay after that. Like a life changing a lot. Now it slides off a little easier. I'm a director as well. WTF, that is wild.
Back when I worked at non-profit as a lowly manager I got screamed at all the time.
Never got comp then Mao tears of joy. Non-profit is code word for no one that works here has run a successful business.
Time for a sit-down with she and her boss with separation from the issue at hand, and emotion.
Call out the behavior. Then address the issue again.
If this is the first time it's happened after working together for a long time, she should have enough grace to understand that people have bad days and do things they regret. The issue itself is real. If her compensation is inadequate for the BS, time to move on after finding another gig.
Unfortunately, senior management, VP, director, have to deal
with this sort of thing, as over-promising, under-delivering, and living again to fight another day is literally part of the game, unfortunately.
My normal disclaimer.
Most of the advice in this sub is terrible, and offered by people who are not managers or executives and really have no idea what they're talking about.
So, be careful not to lock in on confirmation bias and low-effort nonsense. Concur. I'd have dropped off the call. I assume we're all adults here and shouldn't have to resort to yelling. Call me when you're ready to communicate like an adult. And I would have specifically interrupted to say this before dropping out. Exactly.
Drop the call and email the person and CC their boss and say that you do not tolerate being screamed at and that you will escalate if it happens again.
Oh.
If you did that in a group Teams call, I guarantee it'll be the talk of the office.
You probably won't even need to escalate it to anyone's boss.
They'll know. Sorry that this happened. Out of genuine curiosity, how aligned are her goals with her manager and the higher-ups? If they don't care that she is being set up for failure by over-promising what she can deliver, then there are a few options.
1. Do the bare minimum while looking for a new job. 2.
Do the bare minimum and set it up so that she is not the scapegoat.
CYA. Cover your ass with recorded notes. If she can't deliver successfully and often enough, then the higher-ups will have decisions they will need to make.
Either they stop the over-promising or they find a new scapegoat. Can she report to HR?
Depends on company culture. I worked at a company where anyone on the call will report this and the VP will be out in a week. Yelling doesn't equal getting fired, LMFAO.
But get it on the record that the boss has verbally harassed her.
Except that's not verbal harassment at all.
Screaming is not?
It could be.
If everyone else in the meeting agrees that the screaming was inappropriate.
Or even agrees that it was screaming.
So it could be, but it is not.
Which one is it?
This kind of toxic behavior shouldn't be tolerated regardless.
It's not a construction or farming jobs that require people to yell across the field. I don't know because I wasn't there and have only heard a third-party review of the situation. You need to look up the definition of verbal harassment, raising the level of your voice while discipline an employee is not at LMFAO. If you or your workplace can't differentiate between raising voice and screaming, then you have bigger problems.
And discipline for what exactly? What kind of unprofessional toxicity is this? Of all the office workplaces I used to work at, this kind of behavior will not be tolerated.
You never have any idea how many existing complaints he has. Zero chance it's the guy's first time, it could absolutely be a firing.
So, me a stranger has no idea how many complaints he has, but you, also a stranger, do. Am I getting that right, LMFAO? Oh my god, you're not very bright, are you?
Key word there is kid,
tough guy. Either he has a history of it, and you're the final straw, so they can finally fire him.
Or he doesn't and you need to establish a paper trail with hour for his pattern of behavior so he doesn't get away with that shit regularly. Either way, it's worth creating a record of. It's unfortunate you think so. This company I'm talking about was special and I regret every day that I left.
For yelling during a meeting? Creating a hostile work environment is a harassment policy violation in most companies.
You really think yelling during a meeting creates a hostile work environment, and should be cause for termination after one incident? Seems ridiculous.
For one instance?
No. If you have a track record of yelling at people? Absolutely.
How do you think you create a track record of it though?
You go to hour and let them decide how to move forward. For one instance, by God yes. Well, The comment I responded to was talking about one incident and then fired within a week. That seems stupid. Are you not in an at-will employment state? Or do you not work in a corporate environment? It's 1000% a reason to be fired if a company actually wants it to be. I work in an at-will state for a publicly traded company.
My title is Senior Director, so I'm the one who decides that. Yes, I could fire someone for any reason or no reason. That's what at-will means.
I would never fire someone for a single instance of yelling in a meeting. That is really stupid.
A senior director at a publicly traded company does not decide who gets fired. BFFR.
You'd have 4 layers of approval.
And if someone had a history of hostile work behavior, then screamed in a meeting in front of a group of people, that's not remotely a stupid reason to fire.
The companies who excuse that behavior over and over are the fucked up ones. Yes, even for one instance, zero tolerance.
That seems utterly ridiculous.
Glad you're not HR at my company. You must live outside US. Nope. US-based publicly traded company. I'm a senior director, so I sit in on HR Policies and Procedures Committee. Then you haven't really seen what I saw with this company I worked at. It has over 10,000 employees in Texas. You join the dots. It was amazing the way they cared for the little guy. I regret every day I left. I don't believe in shit canning someone because they had a bad moment.
Good people have bad moments, bad days and bad weeks. A single incident of unprofessional conduct is an opportunity to coach the person on how to maintain professional standards with their peers.
I can't think of anything stupider than firing a valuable employee for yelling in a meeting one time. They must churn through a lot of people. I had an employee who deleted a database today. He made a mistake. I am not even considering
firing him since he has kicked ass for 2 years, and today was a bad day. GG. When you are a leader, there is zero tolerance for a public bad moment.
Period.
You keep saying that, and you're entitled to your opinion.
I think it's fucking stupid to fire someone for a single mistake. When you get to be the VP of your department, you can fire people for any reason you want. I live in the US. I have yet to see a company where losing your temper in a one-off situation equals termination. I work for a 500 company, and they wouldn't put up with that shit. Well, unless the person was LGBT or a minority. Lol. This is where Redditors show they have very little real-world experience interacting with real human beings. I assume you're an Oracle DBA. Well, one of the guys who reports to me is an Elasticsearch DBA. He deleted an index out of production today. It was sloppy and should not have happened. Now I gotta give a root cause analysis to the CIO. You think I'm going to fire a person for one mistake, even a bad one caused by laziness? Hell no. I'd spend all year backfilling people if I fired anyone who had a bad day.
Yes, tell me more about how I, with over a decade in a high-pressure client-facing role, has very little real-world experience interacting with real human beings.
Don't be an asshole. It's not hard. And as much as I can help it, I don't want to work with them either. What are you harping about? I've been in corp since 1994 and well on my way to fire. God, you're fucking stupid and insufferable. Standard policy at every Fortune 500 corporation. Try working a big boy job. Hostile working environment is a legal definition, and yelling at a person without being a patern and without any link to being related to discrimination of a protected class doesn't meet it. Every company I've worked for has set the bar much lower than the legal definition in policy and HR trainings. Yes, the company had strong employee relations culture. Almost a zero tolerance for any bad behavior, especially towards a woman. Still seems crazy to fire someone for one incident of yelling. Very small company, high-level customers, not a lot of buffers between orders. If you have 8 years of experience and are a director, you don't lose your cool and overreact to a single incident. For now, she can go take a walk around the block or sit in the sun this afternoon to distress from it.
Then she should get one-to-one time with the VP sometime soon and talk it through, both what happened on the team's call and the more important underlying issue.
Some will be sharing her POV. Some will be listening to and hearing the VP's POV. Then they can figure out a path forward to get R.
That's legit the first thing we did.
Both got a Mega Millions just in case.
Instead of a Mega Millions ticket, start an FU fund.
I don't think quitting is an overreaction here. Getting berated, especially in front of everyone including her team, is a big-ass no-no. If it makes sense financially, she can at least give it 2 weeks, but they don't deserve it.
It sucks if someone lost their temper. They shouldn't, and I would expect they would apologize.
Though over a long enough career you'll see that happen, and may even have times you say things you wish you hadn't.
If it were a long-standing pattern, then that's an issue, but that doesn't sound like the case here, and the frustrated yelling sounds more like a one-off. So you maintain perspective, rise above it, make amends, and focus back on the business decisions.
Making rash decisions and quit.
Aiming to take your toys and go home over stupid little things aren't good for a senior career, and probably aren't what got her to director level to begin with.
All these comments suggesting she quit are extremely myopic, particularly in today's employment climate.
Boss messed up.
Talk it through and move on.
Start looking for new job.
I am going to be honest, it's a little bit hard to find job depending on your specialized field.
HR can't really do anything, fire VP or director.
I think normally the C-suites makes that decision, then HR start the process. You can start documenting for your own protection. God's sakes, get project management to avoid this problem.
If someone higher up literally yells at me in public, I will turn and walk away. If I'm on video call, I start recording, wait for them to vet for a bit, and then I excuse myself after saying that this behavior is inappropriate and makes me feel uncomfortable, threatened, or whatever.
Pack your stuff. I can understand why some people want to work through this, but I am at a point where I'm not going to be bullied even if I am fired over it.
Don't quit until you have an offer from another job. Start saving your money to cover 6 to 12 months of her possible unemployment. Have her do a quiet job search. Bounce the moment she finds a better job, or any job that will get her away from that screaming Mimi.
This toxic company doesn't appreciate her or her contributions. Shake their dust from her sandals and go live a better life. And 70 hours a week could mean she needs to re-examine her work-life balance. I recommend working for non-profits as an easy way to gain some perspective and her life and career.
And yours as well. https://www.reddit.com/r/askmanagers/comments/1b93nr3/comment/kitiqf/closing
You haven't worked in a nonprofit if you think that's an antidote and a wellspring of work-life balance. Or maybe you are just a Pollyanna. Senior leaders in nonprofits can work 70 hours a week with much lower compensation than a director in the private sector. And nonprofits are just as toxic as any other workplace and full of exploiting staff to work more hours because of the mission. If you're working at a nonprofit just for the money, then you're not getting the most out of your experience. All you're doing is working another job for another paycheck. I worked the Delville Science Fair. https://www.dvsf.org/closing parenthesis as an unpaid judge. Doesn't take much time, about 2 days, 5 hours each day, and it's little or no effort. But as an engineer, it's energizing. You get to see young people apply themselves to a task, then you get to encourage and guide them. At the same time, you meet other judges who come from every walk of life. You make lifelong friends, exchange business cards, and expand your professional circle ***** as a bonus for volunteering ****. No pressure to perform. Just friendship and camaraderie. It's an unpaid job I look forward to doing every year. If you build a home with Habitat for Humanity, https://www.habitat.org/closing parenthesis, you get to meet the family who will be moving in.
If that doesn't lift your spirits and touch your heart, nothing will.
Your SW. Ing a hammer, transporting materials, and eat a free meal with people from all walks of life. All for the benefit of a poor family in need of a home.
Without pay or professional advancement.
That's where I met and talked to Jimmy Carter, many years ago.
Quite the surprise when he stopped by, let me tell you.
And yes, working for local chapters of the ASME,
https://www.asme.org/closing parenthesis and NDIA https://www.nadia.org/closing parenthesis were frustrating at times.
That work was a bit more demanding, and unpaid as well.
But that work also expanded my circle of professional contacts, and gave me experience in dealing with people far above my station.
I became much more confident in my professional dealings with peers and superiors, and learned the value of good communication skills. And we worked with the student chapters to help soon-to-be graduates navigate higher education, and the eventual job search. These were the jobs where my company would actually give me a job order number to charge my time to,
which was an amazing bonus for a young, low-level engineer like myself. This asterisk is the experience you need to gain from a nonprofit, meeting people and learning to contribute to the betterment of society, not seeking opportunities to climb another corporate ladder. The people I met there were from every walk of life, and every social strata. But we were all donating our time to help others, learning that direct contributions to society are just as important as jobs and paychecks.
We were each trying to establish our own work-life balance, not burning ourselves out on another job.
That is a life well lived.
Yeah, you are a Pollyanna.
It's great you derive meaning from volunteering in a nonprofit for a few hours a week, but you have no deep understanding of the field, its challenges and realities.
I have worked in nonprofits and government my whole professional career because I have dedicated my life to making a difference in communities.
But public service is difficult work that is not paid well and is consistently under-resourced and undervalued.
I don't have illusions about public service because I
have been in the trenches from starting as an entry-level worker now to decades later being a senior leader. Many people in the field romanticize the work as if those in public service don't deserve competitive living wages, or don't deserve a work-life balance, as if wanting to help your community means you have to sacrifice your life, health and family on the altar of the public good.
And it should be abhorrent that nonprofit workers are on food stamps or getting benefits cause they can't survive on their nonprofit wages. This is just another way to exploit workers, and it's unconscionable. We should pay workers for the skills they bring and for the benefit of the work they contribute to society.
Agreed. My wife has worked in the nonprofit sector all of her working life. There are some amazing, nurturing, supportive people in the business. There are also some horribly abusive, petty, hostile assholes in nonprofit work. You can't look at the entire sector with rose-colored glasses based on a few hours of volunteer work at a very small sampling offbeat organizations out there.
I'd have a planning, prioritization meeting.
Ask for his direction, with the full picture. Use a Gantt chart or whatever is appropriate. The workload exceeding the deadline needs to be on the nose. Either he's choosing what doesn't get done or finding solutions.
If he's unwilling to cooperate, then bring both the yelling and failed attempt at resolution to his boss, along with potential solutions, to not simply lay the problem at their feet. What matters is that she tried to be the adult in the situation.
Either way, she should start lining up alternatives.
Even if things blow over, it never hurts to see what's out there. People don't quit companies, they quit managers.
Go above his head and say if he can't keep his composure you'll be leaving.
Also ask for an apology.
Greater than people don't quit companies, they quit managers.
I've definitely quit jobs with managers I enjoyed working for.
As someone in a similar position as her, I did something similar. However, if she's pulling 70 hours weeks consistently, I would say that's on her.
Setting internal expectations is something she has to improve upon, most likely.
With that being said, no boss should act like that in any scenario, let alone in front of others.
Personally, I would bring it up with someone who has more leverage than him. And if it's more bullshit, then I would walk and let them clean up the mess.
8 years and most senior?
Unless it's a young company, that's a bad omen right there. I work with 50-plus-year employees.
She should pull her boss aside immediately after and have a firm and serious one-on-one to tell her boss that was not an appropriate reaction and to never do that again. Nah, if her boss can yell at her in public, then her boss has big boy, girl diapers and can have a talking to in public.
Next time you get on a call,
you kick it off or end it with a statement about unprofessional behavior and how it's not tolerated by civilized people. Yeah, because the best thing you can do when dealing with drooling idiots is to start drooling yourself, right?
Is that a rhetorical question? The answer is clearly yes. Simple questions are the best way to diffuse excitable executives. Is there anything else you would like to cover at this point? If he says no, end the meeting.
First off, no, not quit. Sounds like a kick-ass move, but she loses all leverage at that point. Tomorrow morning, she needs to be in a meeting with her boss and HR to document the incident, no holding back. To me, it sounds like your wife should continue to work there. If she's done with it, she can hit cruise control and apply to every job in the world.
She should not quiet quit. Keep doing the role and build an escape plan, a new role elsewhere.
At the same time, focus on, yes, but responses to, I need this done now. Yes, but this will negatively impact this other activity. Why? As we need to borrow resources to achieve this. Is that an okay trade?
No.
Okay, so what is the priority for this resource conflict? I'll build a plan to show you when we can execute what you've asked for without adjusting priorities, but to do more than that well.
I'll need to plan for additional investment. Rinse and repeat until the new role is lined up, then quit.
Don't burn bridges or go out in a blaze of glory. Simply say she's found a new role more aligned to her personal and financial goals.
Timing. Check for upcoming vesting or bonus schedule. Make sure you don't miss out on some upside. Quiet quit and look for another job. Quit the Friday before she starts new job.
The job market is brutal right now, so don't be too hasty with quitting before you have something else lined up. Having said this, make a point of refusing to deny the rumor that you may jump. Let them sweat it. Reduce your hours closer to 40, then talk to your boss's boss. When you do this, realize that your boss will begin reassigning responsibilities elsewhere, so things don't fall apart catastrophically when you leave. That's fine, because you're working 40 hours anyway.
Know that when all the vital components of the project have been moved away, they'd be ready to fire you.
That's the fun part. Her company created the technology, so as an analogy, she basically learned math at 1 + 1 when they started.
She was in day 1. Now 8 years later it's advanced math and her coworkers are in the algebra stage. They simply don't have her specific knowledge to the company, clients. I'm definitely hoping she stays a bit longer and uses her benefits or comes to a better personal understanding, place. But it's her call about next steps. She needs to play the mind game. Find a way to remind them that they badly need her. Perhaps take a week of mental health break right now, implying that the yelling is the cause. There's a high probability that she genuinely needs the break anyway. If she's really that vital to the project, her absence will be felt. I'm a VP. She should not back down. Yell back. Actually don't stoop down to that level. Yell back, as in. Keep her cool and don't freak out. Escalate the COO, CEO, and lay it all out there, that it is not acceptable. Instead of jumping down her throat, they need to get on the sales team for making unachievable promises. They legit are offering things that require dozens of hours of developers, project managers, etc. for zero guaranteed income. All for the demo. It's insane, and I am in sales. I would never ask for this type of shit. It's one thing if it's something you can reskin to look on brand. But to make a functional version? Nah dog. Sounds like everyone's feeling pressure. Set clear boundaries about time you are willing to work. Put in a level effort during those hours and hang up the keys at the end of the day. Never hurts to assess all your options and then make the best decision. Quitting and quiet quitting is just dumb unless you are berated constantly or something worse. If this was a one-time event, I'd have a conversation with a person that it would never happen again and then put it in email for documentatio.
N. Love. Hang up the keys.
I used to work later hours but would unplug my laptop. When the battery died, I was done. That's a great strategy.
Batteries used to last like 2 hours. If I were in her shoes, I would schedule a mediated meeting with our and the VP to discuss the incident and how inappropriate it was.
Depending on where you live, there may be protections against bullying and a hostile workplace. Filing a formal complaint can help put the guy on notice and protect your wife. We just finished a hostile workplace investigation and complaint at my job. The senior leader who caused the problem has to go to mandatory individual leadership training now to learn to act like a grown-up and has been written up. Also, he has been put on notice further behavior like that will not be tolerated.
If people like your wife don't stand up and just quiet quit or say nothing, it just empowers bullies like Mr. VP to keep doing what they are doing.
Awesome advice. Thank you.
Not nearly enough info here to give a full opinion, but as a husband watching his wife, with a master's, 30 years in education, move into industry.
My guidance to her is,
be professional, but stand your ground.
Let it be known that this incident is not acceptable and because of it, she no longer believes that her input is valuable to the team and she will be leaving. Of course, get the LinkedIn and network all tuned up. I quit 3 years ago and have had 3 promotions and 3 pay raises since. Corporate America is a fucking joke.
Hate my job.
I had more fun as a mechanic in high school. Your wife needs to find a new job ASAP. None of what she endures is worth a goddamn thing.
Being screamed at is unacceptable in a professional setting.
Obviously, the leadership has no respect for your wife.
If it were me, USA, I would expect an apology, work only in contracted hours, and refuse any additional work without additional pay.
I would also submit a complaint to HR while looking for a new job as a plan B. File a complaint with HR, as she is looking for a new job. Then give 0 notice.
She should start looking for jobs. With her experience, she can probably find herself a good gig.
File a complaint with our and start looking.